Again, good day. My name is Irwin Williams. I am the driver of engineering excellence at Teleios Systems. One of the teams that is focused on ensuring that developers at Teleios continue to produce the software we produce at the levels of excellence that uh, we know we can make it at. Normally, we have a meeting every Friday around this time called the Teleios Power Hour. It's where developers can share some new technology or share some learning they've discovered over the past week or even longer. We've done things related to neural networks. That was our very first Teleios Power Hour. We've looked at game development. We've looked at multi-touch tables. We've looked at software development practices, software engineering, all kinds of topics that allow us to be better at what we do. Beyond that, we also look at things that around the Teleios systems company may be beneficial to know. So it's open to non-developer interest areas. However, most of what we've done at Teleios Power has been developer focused. Today, we continue with that in that we're going to look at developing simple, or maybe not simple, Facebook bots. So joining me today are members of the Teleios software development team, including Ryan Shripad, Nika Bruce, and if I left anybody out, please let me know. Also, other members of the Teleios team who may or may not actively write code. That includes our chief, Kevin Kellawan. All right, so in terms of today, Facebook bots, we will provide the tutorial link that Facebook provides, and essentially we'll go through today in very, very quick fashion what it takes to have your first bot up and running. It will live in a sandbox, the sandbox being an enclosed area that has limited access, and we'll kind of extend that, not functionality of our bots, with some what I would call helpful additions. So let's dive in. Let me pull up the link. So Facebook announced the availability platform earlier this year, and when we heard about it, we were excited on one side and also like, oh, head nod to Facebook because it is very interesting. As the software development company, Teleios has been looking at technologies like this for a while. We've actually played around with our own bots because of messaging platform we provide. Teleios build something called Message Central. We've been doing it for over a decade, and Message Central largely focused on SMS technologies, but we also grew up into instant messaging powered by TCP and data-based transmissions and communication. One of our notable accomplishments that we called a bot service called Maggie was done probably 5 or 6 years ago. And in it, in Trinidad and Maggie, for our international audience, Maggie is this relating this. It's not offensive or anything, but for some reason it annoys Trinidadians. So we essentially enabled you to send Maggies to your friends. For most of our SMS communication, we realized we could turn on automated responses, and depending on how intelligent we wanted the responses, either it would literally be automatic responses based on what strings contained, or limited AI functionality. So we've been for quite a while. So when Facebook did it, we were excited because we explored that technology before, and Facebook provides a massive platform to thinking like that. So let me add this link. head over. So the way powers tend to go is probably for the whole hour and a half, one person tend to be fairly boring. What we like more is there's a start off, an introduction to what the technology is, and then everyone kind of puts their hands in to participate and get it going. So I've just provided the link that Facebook provides in terms of how to build your first bot. So I'll be going through that and expecting that our guys in Teleios are doing it as well, and eventually move away from that into extending what Facebook provides to provide our own functionality. So let's dive into the link. Let me do a screen share. While I'm doing this, let me ask, so Akash Harriram is near to me. I'm going to ask him to jump in and comment on his experience because we both had bots before. So let me share my screen. Since Akash is actually right next to me, I was told why not just let him come over and talk. So here's Akash. Akash, how was it going through these instructions to build your own bot? We'll need to grab this.
Hi. So, last weekend I spent some time going through the documentation that Facebook has online. Building a bot itself was fairly straightforward. I mean, I used their sample app. I got through fairly quickly. I hosted my bot up on Azure, and all in all, it took about 20 minutes to get it on there. I didn't do anything fancy with the bot. I just played around with their sample. So with their sample, you could send a message, well, you could send special messages that do various things like you could show a receipt, you could show a GIF image, you could show buttons coming up underneath your chat message. It's actually pretty cool. I could see what the possibilities for doing something interesting with it. It's not just a standard chat message bot. It actually allows you to interact with it via buttons and post backs and these kinds of things. So, in my experience, it was easy to set up, and I could see where you could build something pretty complex with it. So I'll pass it back to Irwin with that.
Okay, great. Some people were asking me to chat for the link on the YouTube chat. I actually pasted it in this Hangout, but I think Keisha also pasted it into the chat over there as well. So let's go back to that URL. Oh, I'm also hearing you can't paste links in the chat. So I have actually, this link it's pasted in the Hangout here, and we'll come back to pasting in the chat. You'll also see it in the address bar. So let's head over to Facebook's instructions. So I'm sharing my screen. You should be seeing Messenger platform setup and the steps that were involved. Facebook provides an already built out website that you can just deploy, configure, and you'll be able to interact with your very own bot. Let me so we should be seeing my browser window, and here are the steps. You have to create an app, a Facebook app, and the Facebook page. Set up the webhooks, which are part of the app that they provide. Get the relevant tokens, subscribe to the app, and then subscribe the app to the page, sorry, and then test your bot. So as they're saying here, the integration, for the integration, you'll need the app, the page, and a URL to your website. In a while, I'm going to just reach out and call another developer here, Teleios, Anand, to talk about this part of the flow. Right. So let's start with creating the app on the page. This is fairly simple. If you're at the site, if you're at this link I provided already, you should be able to open up Facebook and make a new app, which is very, very straightforward. So here I will call this Power Hour. I'll create a new app ID here for me. Slight apologies. If you look at my Facebook and the English seems slightly weird, my language settings are very international, so don't worry too much about it. Yours would look different. So instead of saying no, you might actually see no. It's fine. Anyway, so it says it's test version of another app. It isn't. For email, I will use my default email here, and for category, I'm choosing apps for pages. It says apps for flags. Don't worry too much about it. I'm going to create app ID here. So this is Facebook's version of Capture. It's pretty weird, but cool as well. So I've already done this. I'm just walking through with you so you can do it as well with me. This should take us probably 10 minutes to work through the whole thing. So it's giving us the general setup, SDK setup stuff, and then ask for the URL of your site. For us, particularly at Teleios, we work with cloud computing resources quite often, so having access to a site is fairly straightforward. Also, since Teleios is a Microsoft partner, our developers, through the partner program and through the certifications we've gotten and the awards we've won, have access to MSD and credit for using Microsoft's cloud platform, which is Azure. So I'd expect that our Teleios developers, when the time comes to make a site, they'll actually use the Azure resources to make a site very quickly. So first step was making the app. I'm pausing here where it says provide a URL for your site. I'm jumping over to make a page. So it's going to ask me what kind of page this is, and you can see here. My chatbot I've made already, and this page is for brand or product, and it's an app page. And here, it's Power Hour. So this is a demonstration page for Power. Right, and I don't need to continue these steps. I will add this to favorites and then be done. So we're on the setup. Going back to, don't need the audience stuff, so you could disregard that. I actually want to focus on how we did it at Teleios just to get it up and running quickly. When I got to URL for your site, I went across to Azure to make my site there. Facebook provides an example page, an example build, an example site that you can use to build out your bot. So I took that and deployed it to Azure. Let me ask Anand to come over and talk to us about his process in doing that. And we will continue because we want to have the site up to provide the relevant URL information. that is here, and further on as we set up the webhook. So, Anand? Right, so I'm having Anand. He's just going to talk to us about his process in setting up the site. I'll provide a URL. While he's sharing, that will allow us to essentially get the bits of the code that don't destroy the world. Get the bits of the code that you need to start off without writing everything from scratch.
Okay. All right, hey everybody. I'm Anand. Apparently, Teleios Anand.
There you go.
So I'm like the person that uses Azure the least, like configuring and stuff in Teleios as a developer. So let's see where we get started. So first of all, we downloaded the sample project from GitHub. Yeah, you did. You should have done that already.
I'm getting the link for it now.
Okay. We also signed up if you don't have that already.
So it's interesting. If you use GitHub a lot, then you could have just taken the. So let me screen share one more time. If you're familiar with GitHub, then you could have used GitHub directly, as in taking the code from Facebook samples. I'm pasting this link into our chat right now. So if you look at the Hangout chat, you should see the link to the GitHub repository. And you should see it on my screen as well. So Facebook provides this quick start that lets you be up and running with a messenger bot fairly easily. You have to install it in your environment though. So here is Facebook's sample platform. If you use GitHub a lot, you can literally use this. You can branch it into your own repository. So here is my GitHub account and my repositories. So I branched, just for the sake of those who use GitHub, I forked this into my own GitHub repository, and then I created the relevant node branch that I could then tie to Azure. So if I log into Azure, which I'll do in a little bit, you'll see my Azure is pulling directly from GitHub as a repository. Anand, not using GitHub as much as he uses TFS and Visual Studio when the Visual Studio, right, yep. Anand?
So after we signed up for Visual Studio Online, created a project, and we essentially opened it up in VS. I think once we checked in the project from GitHub into Visual Studio Online, I think that was it from the Visual Studio part. Then we had to head over to Azure to essentially create some resources. So we need to create a Node.js server essentially.
Right. So let's kind of repeat that. Let's kind of go back through what it begins. The first step is you want to head over to Facebook samples and download the sample code.
Yep.
So when you add GitHub, so this is github.com/fbsamples/messenger platform samples. You're going to download this as an archive if you want, and it'll be available on your file system. If you're using Visual Studio in a Windows environment, you can then extract that. I'll say hold on for that. Download and leave it there.
Yep.
Head over to Visual Studio Online, so that's visualstudio.com. If you already have an account, you can just, if you have an account with Visual Studio Online, you can go and sign into it. If not, you can make one.
I think once you have a live account.
Once you have a live account, it's fairly easy, right?
Yeah, you just log in and get started.
Right. So you log into, and I've got a few projects up on my
Just ignore everything I see.
Ignore my projects. Quite a few on Visual Studio Online, and right, there you go. There's one called Time for Water.
It is probably a time for water.
There is always a time for water.
Yeah.
So, or you can create a new account. Once you do that, so let me walk through making a team project. made a team project. It's fairly easy, it takes minutes. We made our team project, or Anand did.
Yeah, I made my team project. I call it sample bot. Very clever.
Very clever with that sample bot.
Yeah, I think so. So after we created the project, we just created, probably using Scrum or Agile. It's not important for this process.
Right. Well,
I chose Visual Studio, yeah.
Because you're using VS.
Yeah.
Visual Studio.
Visual Studio,
Windows, right?
yeah, for Windows, exactly.
If you're using VS Code or some other IDE,
yeah, I think
then
you can use Git. Yeah.
Git is also fine. Okay. It actually makes it very easy to deploy your code.
Yeah, to Azure.
To Azure.
Yeah.
So once you did this, you create project, then the archive you downloaded.
Mm-hmm. So the code. Mm-hmm. Well, I created a new project in Visual Studio, connected it up to TFS, and I just essentially just dropped the code from the zip file into that
project.
Yeah, that's basically what I did.
Right. You make it changes and then you check in.
Yeah, I just check in.
Right.
So, did you show them the stuff you had to do for the config file, the config dot?
So we haven't gotten there yet. We literally just you download the archive with the default stuff. So if you look at what you get, this is a Node project. So there's that wonderful JavaScript stuff. That goodness. In this project, in the Node website, there's a config folder which contains the configuration for the site.
Yeah.
And you'll see app secret, page access token, validation token, and server URL. You know what? Let's give people just a minute or two to decide what they're doing here, if they're using Visual Studio Online or GitHub to set this up. And you'll feel any questions that may come up either at the Hangout, in the chat, or elsewhere. In the meantime, how are you going? Everything all right?
Kind of tired.
Right.
But I had some tea.
Good. Tea's always good.
It's not really that great. Coffee is better.
For some of us.
Yeah. Well, all right. Did we fill the time yet?
We did fill the time. It was good filling that time. I'm glad everybody's set up and they're good to go. So, while people are kind of making sure their websites work, it's a Node website, Node.js website, which of course Azure supports as well.
Yeah. I think you need to be careful. Well, when you're setting up the Azure account, because it have like quite a number of options to choose from.
Right.
So you could get started with the simplest option as well.
When you're setting up the Azure site.
Yeah, when you're setting up the Azure site.
Right. Well, we didn't actually show that.
No.
But if you're not familiar with Azure, then this particular power wouldn't give you what you need in terms of quickly delivering on what you want to deliver right now. Whatever else you can use if you use Heroku or some other platform for Node. Yeah. The point is you want to host this publicly, this publicly somewhere. So let's head back over to the instructions on Messenger. Now that we've set it up, we made the app, we made the page. You should have a URL that you can your Facebook app with.
Yeah.
And that URL would be whatever site you use. Let me head over to the one that I made before. This is the page for it. This is the page for the one I just made. For the app I made before, my apps. So I'm heading over to the one I did earlier today. This is Teleios Power Hour Test 1, because I want to show the settings.
Yeah.
This is my site URL is Teleios, is testphl1.azurewebsites.net. Good. So moving on from there, we need you to go to app settings and under product settings, select Messenger. So how this is arranged is like there are a number of products you can add to a given Facebook app, including Messenger. So I'd have chosen to add Messenger, like they're saying here. So scan through your products. You're not using login or network, you're doing Messenger. And now this is the fanciness, making webhooks.
Yeah, this is the slightly only confusing part, because you need to have the app, the app hosted first.
Yes.
Before you actually get here. Yeah. So that's the only thing that I get a little confused with. So you need to have it hosted first.
Yeah, so put your app up. It won't work.
It won't work. Yeah.
Like if you don't set it up and you make particular calls, it won't actually work well.
Yeah.
So let's kind of go back to the settings you need to have. This app secret, it's part of the settings for the app in Facebook. It's that ID, and I won't show my secret. You can hit show and then copy it. Maybe you'll see it at some point because it is on GitHub, so maybe it's already there available for people to go and interfere with. There's the page access token, which you get from the Facebook page you made for your app. So let's go over. So for this one, it's in settings. You have all this good stuff here. I took a while to kind of find back my page access token.
I think it was pretty easy to find though.
It was after
Akash.
a while.
But I was just talking to Akash. How do you get the
Page access
token? It's pretty simple, right? It have a button right like on the form that we're filling out to create the bot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is actually right there somewhere. So when you like if you were doing an add new product or whatever.
So there it is, right?
Yeah.
So you hit Messenger, but this is actually after you first do it.
Oh, okay.
So I select a page. And so the one I made before is TPH test 1. And you can just copy this text, and that is what goes here, page access token. The validation token is what you set up.
Yeah. So
if you come back to setup, we're now on the webhook stage. The URL for your site, if you want to use Facebook's want to use Facebook's demonstration, it would be wherever you hosted it /webhook.
Yeah, so that's if you're using the sample that we downloaded, right?
Yeah, Facebook sample, thanks. And then of course, for your token, this is anything you want it to be. So I just use what they gave me.
Yeah, well, it's just something to verify that you are the same person. So
yeah,
that's
exactly.
basically it.
It's just it's a way of Messenger's platform confirming to your app that you all agree to communicate. So here's the validation token, which is that same string. And finally, server URL, I left this empty, but that's because it's an environment variable that Azure is setting for me.
Oh, okay.
So depending on where you're
hosting,
it's true.
Based on the sample, they were looking at the environment as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So get that variable. So once you have those subscription variables set up, really you want to select the options indicated here. So in the platform tab, find the webhook section and choose setup webhooks. They want you to define the token plus these subscription fields, deliveries, messages, opt-ins, and postbacks. So just to demonstrate how this part actually works, if you go, so remember my URL, my site URL. Get back to dashboard. Where did I put my site URL? Could be in settings. Yeah, there you go. So if I grab this URL and I open a new tab, so it's the same site that Facebook created. And notice here, this webhook inside of, so if you're familiar with Node, this shouldn't be too confusing at all. It's just setting up paths.
Yeah.
So if you do a get on /webhook, once you have this data set up, you should be fine. It's a nice way to test things out as well. So you can actually go /webhook. I first used the wrong token. And I said, no, buddy, you calm down with yourself. And, wow, there you go. Yes, Captain. You can go token.
So what token is this you put in here?
This token is the same one you use in setting up here. So if you use this as a token, then that's what it has to be. And it's a nice way to test that your Node application was set up properly. When you put this, you don't get an error. It's not configured to give you anything. Actually, if you look at the code, it just says it just sends back the whatever your challenge was, which you leave out. Okay. Great. So now you have your page access token. You set up the webhook, and you're almost good to go. You finally have to subscribe the app to the page. So going back to the settings. So we're back here in Messenger. and you got the token, you set up the webhooks and the events associated. So that's why I have message deliveries and opt-ins. I didn't subscribe to reads and that kind of stuff. That is it, really. This part
you
here,
did that already.
Select a page. I had already selected my page, which was test 1, and we're good to go. You've just essentially implemented a Facebook bot.
Well, let's see it work.
All right, fine. Let's see it work. So to see it work, when I built mine, I was like, okay, I'm done. I can run the world. Everyone can access my bot. I'm a hero.
But you're not.
But I'm not really. Yeah. Akash reminded me. How you build these bots? These bots are limited to your account and the account of those who are part of your building team. To be accessible to the world, Facebook has to approve it.
Right.
So for now, no one can actually confirm that everything I'm saying is true. I probably could have a friend on Facebook whose name is TPH1:test, who's just replying to my messages. Okay. It could be that when I say, hey, my friend is just replying, hey. Right. We don't know that this bot actually works. And if I say image, my friend replies with an image.
Right.
Maybe. So if you go over to the code here that Facebook provided, and you hit node, and then take a look at
app, I think
it's app.js. Yep. And you check out what happens when you post to webhook.
No, I think it's probably have
it has a method that handles when requests come in.
Yeah, somewhere there.
Somewhere here it is.
Yeah, receive message. Yeah.
So receive message is one of those event handlers that essentially is doing the processing of the messages. So it looks at the message text, and if I say image, it will send image message. If I say GIF, it will send so on and so forth.
Right. So when we actually build in our
fanciness,
our bot,
right?
Essentially, this is the basis for all the logic that we're gonna add.
Exactly. If you wanted to quickly modify this stuff,
right,
you jump into this handler. Where is it? Yeah, receive message. Jump into that handler and change what's happening around here, either by adding or deleting what's going on. So any one of these at the moment, if I type quick reply, it is to my TPH:1:test1
friend, your friend,
my friend on the other side,
right,
is gonna give me some wonderful magic.
Well, what does that do? Okay,
so it's just asking what's my favorite movie genre, and
I'm nice.
Action, and he's gonna tell me if, hey, look.
Oh, that's pretty cool, though.
Isn't it cool?
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
Right. So
eventually we could replace that case statement with some AI to interpret whatever messages the person sending, and it'll do fancy things.
Fair enough. I think so.
So we're gonna do that now?
I have an idea to do at least one slightly fancy thing, but who knows if time will allow us to do it. But before I share my idea, let me open it up to the floor, to the audience, to the many people listening to this call right now, to hear what they're thinking in terms of what could be done with this functionality. So audience, we're back. What do we think could be done with this? Any ideas of how we could use this? I see we have a large number of viewers, and I can't even count them on one. Well, maybe I can count them on one hand. It's fine.
Well, it's our first Power Hour.
It's our first Power Hour live, and it's going pretty well. If I say so myself.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Here's one of the things while we're waiting for either people to jump in or provide chats. I have, not really mine, online at Trinidad and Tobago has a site for hospitals. It's called health.gov.tt, and it provides a list of hospitals in the country. So it would be cool, I think, maybe if you could say hospital and get a list of hospitals in the country, or better yet, say hospital and the name of hospital, and get where that hospital is located, like the address of it.
Well, when you talk about that, the thing that I remember was if you get in an accident,
right,
and you have to find what police station you have to go to.
Right. So this is Trinidad, my friends, and we do have an emergency number.
Yeah.
If you dial 999, someone will answer it. But I have been in the case where you've dialed that number and they've told you, okay, well, call the Toko police station. This has actually happened, and you had to know the number of the Toko police station.
Right.
So that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was thinking about like the bot should tell you where to go based on where you are.
Right.
So the problem is if you get in an accident,
yes,
it based on which geographic location you are in, you need to go to that specific police station.
Yes.
Right. So if you could have asked him, well, hey, what police station should I go to? You know.
Right.
When I get in an accident, and I think the good thing about the messenger is that I think it was mentioned is the fact that you don't have to install an app. So I think the problem with those kind of apps is you don't need them until you need them. Exactly. So
right.
The fact that you don't have to install another app at a point in time, at a critical point in time, you can just go and ask the police stations for that information without actually installing an app.
Right.
So I think that's kind of useful.
That's amazing, actually.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I didn't quite go there. I was just stuck with the, well, now you could do this fancy thing, but you're really moving it into a place of actual meaningful utility.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's kind of just talk about, let's go with the police stations and like that. It seems as if we are hoping that so let me share screen again to go back to that browser instance we're at. We are kind of hoping that when you talk to a bot, Facebook can give you location information from the receipt from the in the conversation, so the bot could find out where you are.
Potentially.
I wonder if that's already available. That sounds meaningful. And even if it couldn't, on the web, so you can use
you can
IP lookups
those APIs
to find out some approximate location for where this person is. Right. If Facebook wasn't quite forthcoming with the information. And then you could say, oh, there's a police station nearby. I think I like it. We are coming close to the end of our session, though.
Right.
So I'm curious. Do you think we have time to do a quick modification of that? I think we could just show what we would do and move from there.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
So I have VS Code here. So let me share that screen. So let me share VS. As you can see, this is the same solution that is published by Facebook. And what we're saying is we can dive into app.js, we can find that method, receive message, and perhaps we can say, we jump into that case statement. Let's say, so essentially we're saying, someone says an emergency.
Well, I mean, let's be clear. So, many people don't actually know the emergency numbers.
Right.
So, I mean, we could actually do that any time we have allotted. Right. So, like, I have a fire emergency. We can actually say,
okay.
Hey.
So, what fire emergency and get the number for fire?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know the number. So,
that's a good point. All right, so I'm going to put fire emergency here.
Yeah. What's this?
So let's take a look at what they have for send. Let's take a look at send text message. That's their method, right?
Yeah.
So here's send text message, right? Oh wow, it's so fun. We can just call send text message.
Yeah.
Let's just pause for the sake of figuring out if our stream is fine. Oh, stream is fine. Thanks, guys. So we're back at VS Code. We can just call send text message for the moment.
I didn't see what send text message does.
But it takes the sender ID, whatever that is, and message text.
Okay.
So right now, send text message acts like an echo.
All right. Okay.
So if you sent an emergency that was fire emergency, reply with send text message. So clearly I tabbed there, so I'm a tabs guy. I'm sorry, all of you other people. Under ID. And
what's the number?
The number for fire emergencies is 990.
The more you know.
So just like that, we've already begun this process of doing a fancy thing. All right, so this is not fancy until it's actually working.
Yeah, I guess.
So let's publish this stuff. So first, I'm going to publish this message.
You actually call.
Oh,
so there's a button.
All right.
There's a button 1. Button
right.
Message.
Yeah.
It'll actually give you an option to.
Oh wow!
So you click on that, it actually brings up your phone and stuff.
Akash is nearby and he's giving us even more life than we had before. We're going to come back to that. We're going to make this work, and we're going to do that thing to make you actually able to call the number from
the messenger
response.
Okay.
So I'm just going to commit this change.
What are you doing?
So I'm in VS Code. Okay. So Anand, you would be more familiar with Visual Studio.
Yep.
But since I use VS Code on the Mac, then I'm just essentially putting the commit message to send it to my repository.
Oh, so it have integration with Git directly in.
So yeah, so
VS
my
Code.
Mac is introduced to Git, and this particular repo is tied to GitHub as the repository for this code. So I just enter the commit message and I update it. Now, through a weird fanciness, because I'm still learning Git, what I do is I then very destructively delete an entire branch, and then Azure detects, oh, a branch has changed, and it goes ahead and it recompiles the site.
Right.
So at the moment, so I just did the commit, and now I'm uploading the changes, and a new branch is made that Azure is pointed to.
Okay.
I'm sorry, guys, it's super complex. There's no need for all of that. But
yeah, if anybody knows how to do it better, you could probably check it with maybe another time and let him know.
So let's head over to our messenger and see if this thing works. Hope for the best.
Right.
So right now I'm sharing this VS Code. Let's stop sharing that and let's share so let's talk to this guy. Let's see, fire emergency. Just straight, no time to waste. It's a fire emergency, but
unfortunately, my word, that's amazing.
There you go. You can't see this, but we just give each other bombs. That's what fist bump should be called, friends.
You can't say that. Sound weird.
It did sound weird. It did.
So, that's amazing. So Akash was saying that we could actually put a button in there now.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's take it to the next place.
Just jump in.
All right, so we just extended it slightly. It was like just a slight turn away from what we get from Facebook. We had the ability to have a local response in terms of fire emergency. And Akash, while we were discussing it, he indicated you could have button responses. So Akash, how do we do that? With this framework provided. I'm going to screen share once more, and you can talk us through what to change.
Yeah, sure. So there's a button response. If you look at send button message.
Yeah. So this is send button message here.
Yeah, go down to that method. Right.
All right, here it is.
So in here you'll see the template for it. At the end you'll see there's a type for phone numbers. So if we put in a phone number there, the button will actually allow us to call out to the phone's dialer magically. So we can modify this to
take a phone number, I guess.
Yeah, to take a phone number. And we could modify the template. So you probably don't need all of those buttons. We could just have the last one.
Right. I don't want to delete anything.
Okay.
I just want to leave it as is and modify hours alone, Akash.
Cool.
Maybe I can just delete this
Yeah.
and do that and be super safe.
Sure.
Maybe. So now we head up to where we had fire emergency. So we could replace our method call, or we could just have another one. This number is
Plus.
590.
Yeah, it's a plus.
And that seems to be all we need. All right. So let's commit this change. And sync with master. Now, what's the next step? Oh, I need to show this because it's destructive and amazing. And people who know what to do will hate it. But I'm still showing it. And this is the life I'm living. What I'm going to show is what happens at my console. There you go. So let's see. Thankfully, it seems like my console is saying, you can't screen share me, my friend. So it's all right. You won't see it. Instead, I'm going to run it. It's an update that will essentially recreate the branch that Visual Studio, that Azure is pointing to. And so Azure will update the site. And we will then have this functionality available. To give it a few moments, we can head back to our bot. And let me screen share that because Pixel, it isn't real.
True.
So we are sharing let's try it again. Fire emergency. So let's see what's happening now. It gave us our number, but it didn't give us that callback. And I'm not sure why, but I feel it's because we're trying to do two messages in response to one thing. And the bot is like,
It's possible.
calm down there, buddy. No. So let's just head back to code quick and remove that first response. Let's say send button message in response. Only send button. Commit. Update. Right. Then we head over to do the actual destruction and recreation every time. Now we are back here saying fire emergency. Now it may not have updated as quickly as I'd like. Let's see what response we get. No response isn't bad.
Well, it's still not a wait for the site to come up as well.
Yeah. So because we're using Azure, you can actually turn on a console session that will spit out the Azure logs from an Azure site. So I'm just turning on that to point to my site test PHL1 to see if there are any errors being generated when this message comes in. So let's try that. Fire emergency once more. Let's see. So we did get something that said, received a message. It texts us fire emergency. Oh, and it says undefined. Undefined is good. Something was doing something and it didn't quite work out well. So let's instead take our payload and concatenate the payload. So I'm going to try to concatenate this number. And one more time. I think Akash just giving me a number format thing. I'm not too worried about it. If it doesn't work, we'll make it work some other time and the internet will know we made it work. I know you don't like that answer at all.
That sucks.
It does suck. Right, so let's update. So updating, making that push. And now we head over to Chrome. Let's say image. Got the image. Say high emergency. All right. So we didn't get a fire emergency to work, Akash. You told us a slightly exciting pipe dream, but it's fine. We'll make it work. We may have destroyed the send button function, so we'll fix it. But with 5 minutes left to spare in our chat, we'll come back to that. I'm very glad, though, that it's very, very easy to modify this button functionality and make it work. So this has been our power hour where we focused on Facebook bots. What you didn't hear it and you wouldn't have seen it, but it's not myself alone. Apart from Anand and Akash, we have Ryan and Keisha and Nikel. All the engineers at Teleios, really, we plug in for 1 hour a week to do something not related to necessarily to production code. And we have, I think, sometimes quite a good time doing it. So this has been another edition of Teleios Power Hour. I hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that this Power Hour Live inspired you to explore Facebook bots and other areas that you may not have thought to be useful to create exciting new things. At this time, I would normally sing a song, but this is Power Hour Live, and I won't. So you'll have a good time. Cheers.